Okay, estudiantes, esto no es nuevo. You had all about present and past progressive, our two progressive tenses, in Spanish too, but this is your review, right? So it's also going to be two parts, super important. This tense tells us what someone is doing or people are doing. Here's part one, is going to be a verb of estar, and in the present progressive, it's obviously going to be in the present tense. Okay? You're going to conjugate estar to match the subject. That's pretty basic. Okay? But be aware that there are a lot of other verbs that could actually sub in place of estar. So we always default to estar because that's the most common one, but ir, andar, seguir, continuar, salir, and there's other ones too. These could be used in place of estar as the first part in the present progressive tense. Whatever verb is there, whether it's estar or another verb, you would have to conjugate it in the appropriate form. Part two is what we call the present participle. The present participle is going to translate as ing. Jumping, reading, cooking, blah, 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 okay? The present participle, once you form it, that's it. There's only one way to form it. So when you conjugate based on yo or to or whatever, what's going to change is your form of estar, but your present participle is going to be the same for all of them, okay? To form the present participle, it's very easy. You should remember this. You start with the infinitive. You cut off the AR, ER, IR. If it's an AR verb, you're going to add back ando. Super, super, super important that you know that there's an N in there. And for ER and IR verbs, it'll be yendo. Guys, it's super important that you make sure you have those N's and you spell these correctly, because remember what we just finished is similar. It's a similar ending, but it's not the same, and it has completely different meaning. So you want to avoid getting confused. Okay, so cantar, again, cut off the AR, add back ando, cantando, and we would translate that as singing. Comer, comiendo, eating. Hablar, right? Hablando, talking. Escribir, escribiendo, writing. Done. All right, now you put the two parts together. Here's what you get. Estoy bailando, I am dancing. Estamos viendo, we are seeing or watching. Okay, few pain in the butt things. Stem changing verbs. This is actually, if you remember rules in the preterite, this is actually going to be quite similar to that. So if you knew preterite really well, your life is going to be a little bit easier. When making a stem changing verb into the present participle, this is what you do. For AR and ER verbs, you get no stem change, nothing. So empezar, empezando. E stays E. But if it's an IR verb, it will get a change, either E to I or O to U. Oh, qué sorpresa, eh? So, él está durmiendo. And remember, durmiendo is the one way to say sleeping. It is the one present participle we have of dormir. So, durmiendo is going to work for the yo form and the to form and the LAU usted and nosotros and ellos ustedes, for all the forms. What changes is your form of estar. So, I am sleeping, estoy durmiendo. That needs to be crystal clear to you. So again, a couple examples. Pepe está mintiendo. Just E to I. Ellos están volviendo. No stem change. Oh, guess what? Because it's an ER verb, I get nothing. Okay? No, don't do stem changes with ER or AR verbs. Okay. There's two irregulars, only two. Okay? They're ear, which is very rarely used. It's not common, but it does exist, so we want you to know it, okay? You literally just put Y-E-N-D-O. The IR goes away, and you add Y-E-N-D-O. And then you have poder, which is pudiendo. This is irregular because, remember, we just said ER verbs shouldn't get a stem change. Poder should not get a stem change, but it does. It gets an O to U right here. So that's why we consider it one of the two irregulars. Now, reír and sonreír, just like they were in the preterite, they're a little bit special, right? They're IR verbs, so you put in the stem change, so that's what I get here, R-I, S-O-N-R-I. And then you add I-E-N-D-O, you end up with the double letter I. Just like in preterite, you take the two I's, you smush them together, and you get this, riendo, sonriendo, okay? Sometimes you have to add Y-E-N-D-O. Oh, wait, I to Y. This should sound fairly familiar. It's going to be the exact same verbs that have this as the ones that were in the I to Y group in the preterite, right? Because you don't want to have three vowels in a row. So, for AR and ER verbs, or excuse me, for ER and IR verbs, after you cut off the last two letters, if what you have left ends in a vowel, you add Y-E-N-D-O. Essentially, you're trying to avoid three vowels in a row. So, caer, right? If I added I-E-N-D-O, I'd have A-I-E, can't have it, so C-A-Y-E-N-D-O, cayendo. Other verbs that take this form, there you are, leer, oír, creer, oír. Again, same verbs from the I to Y group. You don't want 3 vowels in a row. Seguir, just like it was in the preterite, is an exception, okay, because you don't pronounce the U. So here is the present participle of seguir. I get to leave the U-I-E because the U makes 0 noise. Now, reflexive verbs, they have a pronoun. They have a me, they have a te, a se, a nos, or a se. Where do these go when you're using progressive tense? 2 choices, okay? You actually get 2 choices. You can either, number 1, place it directly in front of the form of a star. So here's your example. Here's my reflexive pronoun, me. Estoy lavando. Choice number 2, you can add it onto the end of the present participle, making it all one word. But if you choose to do this, you are going to need to add an accent. And that's going to be 3 vowels from the end of the participle. So that's what we did here, right? Put yo estoy lavándome. So I put me on the end, right on the end, so it's one word. And then I counted from the end of the word. 1, 2, 3. My 3rd vowel gets the accent. There it is. You cannot put the reflexive pronoun in the middle of a star in the participle. Kids try and do it all the time. You cannot do it. It is wrong. It is terrible. Don't do it. Wah, wah, wah. Okay, so again, a couple examples. Nos estamos sintiendo or estamos sintiéndonos. They mean the exact same thing. Personal preference. I don't care if you put the nos in front and they're all separated, or you add it on the end and you put your appropriate accent, but know that both are correct and they mean the exact same thing. Here, same thing. Me estoy relajando or estoy relajándome. I am relaxing. 2 ways to say the exact same phrase. Okay, go with whichever one you prefer. Okay, then we got past progressive. Past progressive is essentially exactly the same as present progressive, except it's in the past, so our forms of a star are going to be in the past. In this case, they're specifically in the imperfect tense. Estaba, estabas, estaba, estábamos, estaban. Okay? Part 2 is exactly, it's the ando, yendo, present participle. There's nothing new about that. The same irregulars, everything. So if you say, you were going to bed, it's te estabas acostando, estabas acostándote. You were going to bed. You were lying down. Great. Or the next example, usted se estaba cayendo. You were falling down. Estaba cayéndose. Okay? Done. And that's the difference. Okay? You know it's past progressive because the form of a star is in the past, so it translates as what someone, what you were doing or what someone was doing as opposed to is or are. And that's it.